build our character from bricks of habits we pile up day by day. This is a quote from wise person. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, my today's topic is how to form new habits or replace old ones. So how do we define habits? According to Wikipedia, habit is a routine of actions that is acted repeatedly and that is done subconsciously. Repeated and subconsciously is the key word here. We are doing things repeatedly without even realizing it. So that must be very important, that must be very critical. Now why are habits so important? Why should we focus on these? These are automatic, going on. According to one research by Duke University, 45% of our waking behavior is habitual. That means almost 50% of our waking time we are acting on autopilot. And if we are not conscious about those, we are doing things we may not want to do. We not be realizing it at all. So I believe that establishes the importance of habits. Then we need to understand how habits forms, how are habits formed, how does habits work. Habits follow three-step process. First there is a trigger or a cue, then there is a routine or behavior, and then there is a reward. For example, if I am working on some difficult task, I feel the difficulty of task, open YouTube. I believe many of you relate to that thing, with internet everywhere. Open YouTube, start seeing unrelated videos, and gone is the time. So in this scenario, my trigger is difficulty of task, behavior is opening YouTube or any social media site, and reward is getting away from work, from difficulty of task. Similarly, if I take another example, I feel afternoon slump, as probably many of you all do as well. I feel afternoon slump, feel tired, drink tea, caffeinated tea, have a dose of caffeine, and felt some alertness. In this scenario, it's again a habit. I don't think we ever see these things as habits, but this is also a habit. Trigger is afternoon slump, tiredness, routine is drinking tea, and reward is getting some alertness. We have understood what are habits, how do habits work. Now how can we change habits? Change of habits follow a simple framework. We need to identify the habit we would like to change and the purpose of change. If the purpose is strong, then we will be able to replace that habit. So identifying the behavior to change and the purpose of it. Identifying the trigger. What is the context, what's the trigger that initiates that behavior? Identify the tiny new replacement behavior, the new behavior I would like to adopt, the constructive behavior. If I have consciously worked on that thing, I should be able to find what I would like to replace it with. Identify and adopt that new small replacement behavior. And adopt that behavior and celebrate the change. Celebrate in whatever way I like. But celebration is one important psychological cue for cementing that habit. If I apply this framework to afternoon slump exercise, I will feel afternoon slump in a routine. So that is the trigger there. Now I have a choice. If I worked about it, I have a choice. Should I drink tea or should I replace it with some other behavior? Should I walk around the office, drink water, eat apple or some nuts and feel the same alertness? So I can replace the same old habit with a new habit which I consciously thought about. It's a simple three-step process. the context, identify context, that when this happens, instead of this old behavior, I will adopt this new behavior. Simple 3-step process. It can apply to any situation, but consciousness is the key here. When defining a new habit, when I like to adopt a new habit, one important point is to tie or chain the new habit to an existing one. For example, I would like to adopt the habit of doing push-ups. If I do put 10 push-ups after every prayer, I am tying that new habit to an existing habit. And there is a high chance that I will be able to adopt this new habit. Some other important points about changing habits. You should focus on one habit at a time. Don't try to do too much. When I was seeing a video, one person was saying that 21st of January is one of the most depressing days of the year. Any idea? The reason was that there is a New Year resolution we set at the beginning of the year, and by 21st of January, we have just decided that we can't do it. So the reason being doing too much at the same time. Focus on new habit. Single new habit. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to do too much at the same time. The new replacement habit should be small enough, 60 seconds or less, and repetition is the key. So the simple framework, 3-step process is identify the new behavior, identify the trigger, adopt and celebrate the new change. Habits built into character. This is another quote by a wise person. I wish you luck for adopting this framework in adopting new habits and replacing some not so good ones. Mr. Toastmaster.
Let me invite for a second prepared speech Toastmaster Perwaiz here and his evaluator, Toastmaster Dr. Salim, who will brief about the project.
This is the second topic, Dr. Perwaiz from the advanced menu. Project number 2, let's get personal. Objectives are to learn the elements of a good story, to create and tell an original story based on a personal experience. And time is 6 to 8 minutes. Dr. Perwaiz has very good experience of stories and we all witnessed it. So let's hope this is wonderful. Sir.
Thank you.
Dear Toastmasters, good evening. It's a pleasure to share my personal story with you. I'm standing here in front of you, and it's due to God's miracle and the advancement of science. Why I said science? I'll take you back to 2014. This was the fall of 2014. And my daughter, Karima, was going to get married in 2015. So she wanted to get into shape. And she wanted to go to gym. So she started going to gym. And one day she saw me sitting on the sofa, being very lazy. And she said, "Papa, come on, you should join me. Let's go to gym together. So you will also shed some weight. You're becoming huge every day." So I said, "Sure, Karima, I will come with you, but let me check with my doctor because I had certain heart conditions and I was on aspirin, daily aspirin, a smaller one. So I went to doctor. Usually, I mean, this is a routine visit. I asked her, I said, my daughter wants me to join her for gym activities. What would you say? And she said, I don't see any issue, but you know what, I'll write for you a couple of tests. You go over these tests, and once we'll get the results, we will know the real picture. So how much, aggressive you should be in the gym, I'll sort of prescribe you at that time. Fine. Went through those couple of tests. Inconclusive. She was not able to decide. She said, you know what, go for angio. Angiogram, they put camera inside you and they travel through arteries. And she said, you know what, if they find some blockage, they will put a stunt and you'll be fine. It's a matter of only overnight staying in a hospital. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to drop your courses. You don't have to worry about teaching in university. I was actually teaching at Concordia, and these are new courses. So just go for overnight. So I went there, went for angio, come back. This process was 4 hours process. And technicians were there and they said, well, doctor will come and will tell you. And lo and behold, doctor comes and he says, you're not going home. We have booked a room for you upstairs and you're going to stay here. Why? Well, you have 98% blocked arteries, and we cannot send you home. Wow, no pain, no such sign. I was fine, perfectly fine, moving around. No, you go to the room, we'll talk. Surgeon will come, he will talk to you. So next day, Dr. Ma, he is a well-known doctor in Montreal, cardiac surgeon, comes and says, Mr. Hayat, I have seen your reports and you have come on time. So you are a very lucky person. I said, doctor, I haven't anything. I don't have any pain. I don't have any sort of sign whatsoever. He says, look, it's your choice. You want to go out of this hospital, you are free. You may not come back for another 10 years, or you may come from the parking lot. Who knows? But you'll be sitting on time bomb. Decide. Of course, my family would not allow that. They said, hell with the university, hell with the courses, all those things will, they can stay and we'll take care of those things. You just be here and go for surgery. Fine. So, it so happened that Dr. Ma decided that he will do open heart. And I was going through that YouTube, how they do open heart. My wife was saying, you're crazy. How can you do this? I said, no, I want to know how they do your open heart. I want to know. So, they are very systematic. What they do, they actually cut you up with a saw machine, right? So the saw machine would go here to cut you up, right? And then after that cutting up, they go into your heart, right? They would take your heart out and they would unplug the heart and they will plug a machine. So now a machine is running your blood and they are working on your heart. So they will start doing first artery, they will do second artery, They will pull out things from here, artery from here. And the day when Dr. Ma came to check me, it was very funny. He said, show me your hand. And then he started from hand and goes up. And he says, you are right? So I won't take your right hand. I will take left. As such, I was just a goat or an animal where, I would go on for sacrifice. It was very funny. I said, fine, doctor, whatever you want, right? So then they take out those arteries and they plug in those arteries inside you. And once the arteries are plugged, these new arteries which are gone in, they close that machine and they start your heart, and then they sort of menu the whole thing. Fine. So it was a big operation, it was a big surgery. I was in operation theater for 5 hours. I came out, I wasn't conscious. I was conscious, I think by night. My family was around me and I became conscious, I was fine. 2 days after, and this is amazing, 2 days after, they asked me to stand up. 2 days after open heart, right? 4 days after, they took me out of the room and they said, you have to walk, right? 6 days after, they asked me to climb the stairs. Open heart, right? And 7th day, they kicked me out of the hospital.